Good afternoon, Prep News, Off the Bench Sports family. Man, just another beautiful day that we're blessed to be here. Uh, I like when what's that thing they're trending saying? Big things popping. Big things are popping in the Red River area. Uh, Everybody that know me, I am the most competitive dude in life. I'll compete at talking. I'll compete at everything probably but dancing. Two left feet here. Uh, our next guest, man, she has a competitive fire, competitive juices that she's not backing down from a challenge. She don't care who you are, where you come from. She don't even care where you're going because she's telling you straight up, you're gonna have to deal with us. Period. You ain't gotta like it, but you're gonna compete against them when you get on that court. And she's earned the respect of her peers, even as an assistant before she just became the head coach. She earned the respect of her peers. So, Prep News family, please help me welcome Mrs. Erica Randolph. Hi, Coach.
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited about this, man. I follow you on Twitter, so that's how I know you're super competitive. That's how I know you talk ish, uh, and you can talk as much as you want. Like we compete. Like I challenge you right now to a game around the horn right now, and come in and fulfill it, and we can do it live. I ain't scared of me. And my shot still wet like water. What's up? Tell us a little bit about Erica Randolph.
well, I've been an assistant coach for 7 years. Well, this is my seventh season, so technically 8 years. So, of course, going into my eighth year now, I've been promoted to head coach. I started my career coaching at East St. John High School, so I coached there for 1 year. And then my head coach and I, we left and we came over to Hahnville to build our program. As you guys know, we won district 2019, 2019, 2020, 2020, 2001. We were Louisiana top 28 in 2020 and 2021. So, we've established ourselves as definitely competitors. Everybody knows we play a really tough schedule. One of the first things that somebody reached out to me and said, "Are you changing the schedule?" And I said, "No." I said the schedule still stays the same. I knew that Youssef was leaving, so when he reached out to everybody to do the schedule, I was right there with him, and I was like, "No, we're not changing any part of the schedule. We're still going to play in the same tournaments, still going to play the same teams that we play. Nothing changes when it comes to that."
I hear a great respect for Coach Yasmin Youssef. How grateful are you to him for giving you the opportunity to be a part of boys high school basketball?
Well, Yusuf and I, we go back because, of course, I was teaching at the time at East St. John, and he came and walked in my classroom one day, and he said, "I have a message," and he was like, serious, and he said, "God asked me to deliver a message stating that you need to be a coach." So I just was like, nah. I'm so serious. I was like, "No, I'm good." And he said, "Okay, but that's your purpose in life, and that's your design." And of course, like we kind of knew each other because he was playing at Loyola when I was playing at Dillard. And I said, "Nah." I was like, "I don't really think that's for me." So he said, "Okay." So he convinced me to watch some film. So I broke some film down for me, and he said, "Now, do you believe that this is your purpose?" And I said, "No." I said, I'm chilling. I'm good." I was a biology teacher, and I was really happy with that. So then he brought me on as an academic advisor for his players. And of course, as you get to know the players, now the players are asking you questions. Now, you're watching their game and you're talking to them a little bit more. So then finally he says, "Okay, now do you believe that this is the design?" So at the time, my son was going to be an incoming freshman at East St. John. That was my oldest son. And I said, "Well, I guess this is the design." So my first time I ever stepped into my first game, I knew from that point, I was like, yes, I said, this is exactly where I belong. And it wasn't a question of girls versus boys or anything like that. This was the message that was being delivered to me at the time. It was the same message that came when we were leaving to go to Hahnville. The question he asked me was, where does your loyalty lie? And I was like, I'm loyal. I was like, I'm loyal to a fault when it comes to people. Like, you never have to question my loyalty to a brand, to a program. And he said, I'm telling you, the message that I'm getting is to come to Hahnville. And I was like, why? I said, why would we do that? We have 3 all district players. And I was like, why would we do that? And we did. And he was like, nah, this is the design. So sure enough, I had a dream. And the dream was a Black Panther coming through a window, which signified change and something better. So the next day I was like, yes, this is what we need to do. And I think that's kind of how the journey has been. But he told me, and I actually have the tweet. I tweeted it out in 2018 that I wanted to be the first female 5A head coach. And I still have the tweet. And sure enough, when it happened, I just said, man, I said, he told me that that was God's purpose. And here I am.
That's awesome. You definitely garnered history and within the LHSAA and the state of Louisiana and in the Red River District, which, can we be honest? Can we, what they say, can we keep it a buck? On the boys' side, it's been a primarily male-driven region as far as boys basketball goes.
I would agree.
And that, you know, that shows how much earnest respect that your administration had in you, how much trust that you could lead those young men in the right direction with the right purpose. Speaking of purpose, what's your purpose in wanting to be a part of boys athletics beyond the blessing that God ordained your track to get into boys sports? From what you just said, that's what I took, which is a great thing.
So when I was 17 years old, um, I went to an all girls private school. And there was an all boys private school where I'm from. It's actually named Jesuit because, Jesuits, high schools are across the United States. And they have an outstanding program. They put out a lot of D1 players. And their head coach reached out to me and he said, listen, we run a summer camp every year. And I said, yeah, I'm aware of the summer camp. And I knew who he was. Like when you're a standout athlete, other, high school coaches, they get to know who you are.
Right.
And he said, listen, we have a camp and I'd like you to come coach the camp. And I said, wasn't your camp an all boys camp? He said, yeah, no, it's an all boys camp. And I said, all right. But for me as a 17-year-old, I was just like, oh, an opportunity to go work a camp and I get paid to do something that I really love to do and be around kids. Cause I've always loved kids. So when I went and I coached at this camp, summer camps are so much fun because the little kids, like you want your little kids to win, but the kids are there to have fun and you're teaching them fundamentals. After I did that camp and it was a week-long camp, he pulled me to the side and he said, there's something different about you and you're going to do great things. But I was 17 at the time. And the only thing I was thinking about was I'm getting ready to go off to college to play basketball. I hear that. But at 17, you're green behind the ears. You're not really thinking about anything like that. So that's how long that particular part goes back. And I really didn't see the steps being ordered to that. And when I became a teacher, I realized that, one of the ways that you get kids to perform for you in a classroom is you have to build relationships with kids and you have to earn their trust. So, everybody wants to say, I just want to coach and I don't want to be a teacher. It's not how coaching goes. You have to be a teacher. Yes. And to be honest with you, when you are a better classroom teacher, because you can differentiate your instruction, you're better as a coach because you can reach different styles of learners and you can understand why kids do the things that they do on the court, why when they're supposed to make a certain play, they don't make that play. Because you're starting to pay attention to different learning styles and you're starting to pay attention to, all right, this is how you get this kid to actually perform the way you need them to perform. But this is so much bigger than just basketball to me. Basketball is the vessel that we're choosing to use. But what our vision of our program is, it's changing the lives of young men through the game of basketball. So making sure that these children, when they leave from us, because we know not everybody is going to play at the next level, not everybody wants to play at the next level, but you want to make sure that their experience in high school, that they learned how to be a team, they learned what family means, they learned brotherhood, they learned how to become young men. And the vessel of basketball teaches all aspects of that, but you want kids to walk away from your program feeling like they were a part of something. And if they choose to stay in the community, that their children are still a part of that legacy. And
Right.
that's what this is all about.
Man, so when I think about it, I have to think about some things a little bit harder than others, being that I'm old now. Um, Coach Youssef got his start at East St. John under Coach Julian,
Correct.
and immediately made an immediate impact on District 55A, in which they were in at the time, with Thibodeau and Destrehan and East Ascension, St. Amant, and Dutchtown, were that made up that Red River District during that time period. And like I said, Coach Youssef showed himself to be more than a formidable coach in being able to get kids to play basketball the way that he wanted them to play and needed them to play to be competitive. As you stated, you guys transfer to Hahnville and keep the same standard of application going with those kids in a different region, which is about 45 minutes in distance, I believe. How do you keep the standard going?
We work really hard with our younger kids. So one of the things that I think that we've been able to do is you have to value the younger kids in your program. If you're not valuing the younger kids in your program and you're not actually teaching them and being patient with them, when those same kids get to varsity, you have to work that much harder.
Right.
So if you can already implement your system, get your kids bought into your vision already at the freshman and the JV level, it's that much easier for you when they get to varsity. A lot of people, and this is no judgment on my part at all. A lot of people do not understand how important it is to have a quality freshman coach. They oftentimes place
You're not
somebody at the
gonna do
freshman.
that. You're not gonna do that.
Right. So
No, no, I'm saying you're messing up my next question.
oh,
Nah,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, coach.
I'm
Great job.
sorry.
Man.
Um,
Great job.
one of the important things is, you have to have somebody that loves and cares about the babies. And that's what I call them. Like, you have to have somebody that's there that says, some of your kids are going to come in so raw. Some of your kids are not going to be, they're not going to be varsity ready. They're going to not have the fundamentals that you need. Some of them may not be able to line up at the free throw line correctly.
That's
Some of
right.
them may not know when the ball tips off, which way that they're going to go. And sometimes you have to remind them during the game. You have to have somebody that's there that is patient and that's going to provide instruction and that's going to love those kids. And to be a freshman coach, like you really have to love kids to do it, because when I tell you that freshman games are sometimes they're running time. You have to be strategic about your timeouts. You do. You have to be strategic about your timeouts. You have to be strategic about your lineup. You have to understand that it's not going to be pretty all the time. That it's going to look terrible, especially in November.
Yes.
It's awful. You're just like, man, how do I do this every year? But at the end of the day, when you see those same kids and their progression when they get to varsity, you're like, man, I remember when that kid didn't even know how to line up at the free throw line.
Right.
But that's the greatest joy for me. And I can remember as a freshman coach playing in the Eastern League on Saturdays, every year I would see programs that rotate freshman coaches. And I'm like, yeah, you're struggling because you need somebody that's going to be there year after year, that's instilling the culture and the value that you want in those kids. So that way, when they're on varsity, you can do so much more when they get to varsity because you've already laid that groundwork and that foundation for those younger kids.
Right. I've said this for many a years now, that if you're struggling to build your varsity program, is because and this is the most important part, you have coaches that want your job. They think they can be a better head coach than you. B, you don't have a freshman coach that's understanding that his job is not to win games. His job is to build, develop skill set and IQ, and to mimic all the terminology that the varsity uses. The junior varsity coach is to make sure that kids understand movements and things of that nature, so that if they get an opportunity to move up to varsity, they've gotten skill development, they've gotten, they understand how to shoot and what a good shot looks like. Some kids don't even know what a good shot looks like. And then again, the terminology, using the same terminology for freshman, JV, and varsity. Now, when they get to varsity, be it this year, next year, or maybe in some kids, it just take 3 years to get to varsity. It takes what it takes. But at the same time, when they get there, all you have to do is say, this is your spot. This is what you do from this position, because the JV coach has already instilled that in them. So, man, you're trekking outstanding already. Who in becoming a coach under Coach Youssef, uh, and now you're in this game, and I know Coach Youssef and how detailed he was. He and I, even though we didn't talk as much anymore, when he first got into coaching at East St. John, we talked a lot. Um, I know you learned a lot from him. But who are some of the other coaches that you picked up tidbits of pieces of this and this and this to make Coach Randolph a complete coach?
Honestly,
Honestly.
I watch a lot of women's basketball, and that's no knock to the fellas, because of course I coach the fellas, but I watch a lot of the women's game because it's so much more fundamentally sound, and there's some things that they do that on the men's side we don't do well. So I tend to watch. I watch a lot of high school coaches. I watch how they interact with their players. I watch, that's one of the important things, like when we play summer league, why I like playing in McDonald 35 league, because you have Brother Martin, you have Jesuit, you have Country Day, you have 35, you have Carver, you have all of these different programs that, again, their coaches have different styles, different players, but you get to see Newman. I don't know if I mentioned Newman, but you get to see quality competition, and you also get to see how traditionally everybody kind of like runs their program, but you get to see the different style of game. But as far as like watching coaches, of course, like Dawn Staley, of course, Kim Mulkey, Iowa's coach, I watch her a lot. I used to watch Gino with UConn. I kind of got away from Gino when he kind of was attacking the other coaches.
Right.
um, but really, I watch a lot of college basketball. Not so much. I do watch the X's and the O's, but the important thing is how do you manage players during timeouts? How do you manage when teams go on a run? How do they choose to stop the run? Do they allow their players the autonomy to, all right, let's see if they're going to go ahead and step it up, or do I need to call the timeout right then and there? But I watch a lot of college basketball. I don't. I watch the NBA sometimes, but I really think that the NBA coaches, they're more personality managers than anything.
Right.
Like they know that they have these intricate pieces that they have to put together, because you can see that sometimes on Steve Kerr's face, like that wasn't the play they were supposed to do, but it worked out, and you can see that in his face, and he just shakes his head. Which sometimes as high school coaches we do that, like that wasn't what's supposed to happen, but it works, so we're just going to move past that. But I really enjoy watching how coaches interact with their players, because it says a lot about their program.
Being a female coach, a lady, a woman, that's really into basketball. I want to ask you, this has nothing to do with basketball at the high school level. Um, I watch a lot. I really respect and love. I'm a big fan of the Mississippi State Lady Bulldogs head coach too.
Coach Yo?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I think her, Don Staley, Kim Mulkey. I think they should be offered and asked to coach an NBA team. Like they've shown above the realm of having IQ as a head coach to motivate players. Like you said, what's your thought? Do you think that they should have an opportunity to go to their next level?
If that's what they want.
Right. If they, but should the offer be extended?
Absolutely. I still don't understand how in 2023 we're still at this point.
Right.
So let's like we have women who run school. You have Swing Cash, who is, over the Pelicans. You have women who are in the classroom as teachers. And let me tell you, when I was in this interview process, if I would have been interviewing for a girl's job, this would have been a no-brainer and nothing. And it's not it is. It literally is, because that does not come into play.
Right.
And I didn't, now when I interviewed, I did not feel like there was never a question about that. But that's because my admin team also knows me and they know the work that I put in.
Facts.
I think that one of the challenges that I see is that there's just still this stigma of that, yeah, but you're a female. And I'm like, basketball is basketball.
Right.
It really is. Basketball is basketball. It's like tennis is tennis.
Right.
And soccer is soccer. It does not matter what sex is out on the court. It's still the same sport with the same rules. So
Right.
in 2023, it still baffles me that oftentimes we're still at that point of, can a woman do this? Or this, my favorite was, well, how can she show a man how to be a man? Well, I'm not trying to do that. That's not what I'm here to do. I am not trying to replace any of these children's fathers. That's not what I'm here to do.
Right.
I'm using the vessel of basketball to teach character and integrity. And there's a lot of single mothers that do the same thing.
Facts.
So why is this still a question in people's minds as to if, because it's not a knowledge thing. It has nothing to do with X's and O's. People have
Right.
seen me coach. People have seen me win games. People have seen me win freshman tournaments and JV tournaments. So why are we still at the point where that's a thought process for people?
Exactly.
I don't, because there has been a female who has won a state championship in 1A with North Central.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been assistant coaches. So again, it baffles my mind that I have to have this huge pedigree of playing sports in high school and in college when I often coach against people who sat the bench in high school. And that doesn't mean, listen, again, I'm not trying to demean anybody when it comes to that. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I'm not trying to say that because I played in college, that means I have more knowledge than anybody else. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm stating is my resume is longer than a lot of people that I coach against, but we're still at the point of, but she has to mark the female checkbox.
Right. Right. I agree with that 1,000,000,000%. So I had a rant. I went on a rant. I think that was last week. And it really, really, really irritates me. It does, because I wasn't the fastest, the biggest, or the strongest, but I think I played with a lot of heart, a lot of integrity. Um, and you even see this. I think Kevin Durant and them is at home right now because someone didn't say, and even if you didn't do it in the first half, someone should have said this in the second half. The most efficient score the NBA has ever seen. Um, no one said, "Hey, we have a 7-foot guy that can shoot, pass, see over you. Every possession goes through him, and let's let him decide who gets the best opportunity at a shot. Um, and so I'm watching the EYBL session 3, and I see coaches that are afraid, or what on the outside looking in, it appears that they are afraid to coach kids, um, for thinking that the kid or the parent is gonna say, "We're going somewhere else. We don't have to take this," but you're messing up the basketball, and which essentially messes up the game. Uh, how tough, if at all, is it gonna be playing, um, in your system?
Um, I don't really know what you're asking me. Like, how is my
So,
system?
again, I'm sorry for not defining that, Coach. Um, I want to make sure that I give it to you the right way, so that it's not interpreted the wrong way. Um, Again, on the EYBL circuit and other, some of these teams that get the best players, and you talked about this earlier about managing egos and managing talent. Um, if it comes a time within the game or the season, and you have to say, "Hey," I think they said Mark Jackson did this in Golden State. Steph Curry is our best player. This who we're playing through, like it or not. Um, is that demand is something that you're willing to do if need be to better your team?
Absolutely. However, as a coach and as a teacher, you have to play towards your players' strength and their weaknesses. And are they in a shooting slump? And what do we do to get that player to play? And they're in a slump, and what do we need to do? And this is just my own personal opinion. A lot of times as coaches, you tend to have this mindset of, this has always been my system and my system is not going to change. And that type of mindset, like, you have to be willing to grow and stretch yourself. So like this past season, we didn't have height. When we walked in gyms, people knew that we didn't have height. So the adjustment we made was, we're going to have to play faster. And
Right,
playing faster meant we had to be a transition team.
right,
So because we didn't have height, now we've got to push the ball more, we've got to be quicker, and we have to defend.
right,
And our on the ball defense was excellent because we were a quick team. We knew that we were small. We knew that. Like, that was like the obvious thing, that you need height when it comes to basketball. But what happens if you don't have a 6'5" kid? All
right,
right, now we have to make an adjustment to our system, and we have to play to the strengths of our players.
right,
So as a coach, you have to create your system that's going to highlight your players' strengths, and hopefully you're working on those weaknesses that you do have in practice every day, because those weaknesses get exposed.
right,
That's the part of that was the part of coaching for me that always makes me cringe, when somebody in the stand says he can't go left, and I'm like, yeah, I tell him that at practice, and I make him go left at practice, and then we get in the game and the child still wants to go right, and you cringe as a coach, because you're like, I'm trying to protect you and work on those weaknesses and make you uncomfortable at practice, so when you're in the game, you can go right or left, and nobody in the stands is saying, hey, he can't go left. But I think, to answer your question as a coach, like, you have to evaluate every year, like, does this system work for your personnel? And if your
right,
system is not working for your personnel, you're going to have to fix or change your system. And you should, as a coach, you should always have a growth mindset. When you become stagnant as a coach and say, no, you just have to conform to my system, you might need to step away from coaching at that point. Because I'm just serious, because the game changes all the time. So you as a coach have to decide, are you going to stretch your mindset with the personnel that you have, or I'm just going to continue to run this offense because I've run this offense for 20 years, and it doesn't matter if it's not working, it's the kid's fault. It's the kid's fault. No, you have to say, all right, this is this player's particular strengths. This is this player's particular strengths. Let's work on their weaknesses at practice. And so let's get them to the point where we need them to be, but we need to design a system where we can maximize their potential so we can be a successful program.
right. As a coach, I've always been partial am favored to playing. If I have 12 kids on the roster, I'm going to try to have 10 of them prepared to go in the game. Now, everybody, we know this as coaches, everybody that you have on your roster just isn't going to play. The game may be too big for the, you know, for their moment to get into the game, or whatever the cause or reasoning may be. But in this day of high school basketball, we see some coaches that are hard set on playing 6, 7, 8 kids. I've seen Kenny Almond at East Ascension for 2, 3 years straight. He played 5 kids, which means that you have to be in really great shape, and super mentally tough to do that. What's your philosophy on playing time? Are you a coach that is hard set on I'm gonna play the best 6, 7, 8, or I'm gonna challenge my kids every day in practice to be better? So if we are small, like you just stated, we can play a lot faster, but which also means that the player rotation has to be greater, to keep kids' legs fresher, to smaller the risk of injury. What's your thoughts on that?
I play kids that produce. The name of the game is production. So, and I tell the kids, this production looks like this. You set the ball screen, they came off the ball screen and they scored. You set the screen, you stay in the game. The person who scored, you stay in the game. If you're the person who made the cut that drew the help defense and then made it so that somebody was able to get to the basket, you cut hard, you stay on the court. Person who scores stayed on the court. You're rebounding the basketball, you're defending. That is production, and production keeps you on the court.
Right.
You come out the game when mentally I know you're fatigued because you're turning the ball over. You missed a defensive assignment where, like, I don't want to say I'm a defensive minded coach. I just believe that night in and night out, defense is always something that you should be able to play. You may have an off night shooting because that's the game of basketball.
Right.
Sometimes it's just the shots don't fall, but defensively, you should never have an off game. If you're getting beat off the dribble drive, you have to sit down because you have to understand you're just allowing, like, that's mental toughness to me when you're just allowing somebody to get to the cup on you. That's mental toughness, and you have to sit down. But it's production. Whoever is producing on that court stays on the court. So whether that is the normal starting five that is out there, whether it's the five bench players, that does not matter to me. It's all about production. And I've always said that if you are if you're producing a lot of assists, if you're not turning the ball over, because again, turnovers are my pet peeve because a lot of turnovers are unforced.
Right.
Sometimes they're due to fatigue. Sometimes it's because you're making an anticipation. Those kind of turnovers, I'm kind of like, eh. But sometimes when kids just turn the ball over, you have to sit down. But production is what matters. It doesn't matter to me who's in the game. Who's ever producing stays in the game.
Great. Look, your kids are going to be super ecstatic about that, because now that means that a younger kid may get a bigger opportunity, to show you that he can play if he gets on the court. And by now, you've been there at Hahnville for a minute, so they know who Coach Randolph is as a coach. They've seen you coach 6 classes of kids that have come through there, and whether we like to believe it or not, kids talk more about sports than we think, in the understanding and comprehension model. So when you look at this thing, and as a new head coach, uh, the season gets tough, or you go through a rough spot, who are you picking up the phone and call and say, hey, can you what advice can you what advice can you give me to help me help my kids?
I think everybody's clear that I'm going to pick up the phone and call Yusef Jasmine in Atlanta. That's a no-brainer.
Oh man. That's just it. One person.
Yes. Yes.
You've been in this Red River District now, 6 years. Um, East St. John, Destrehan, Thibodeau. Um, I know I'm missing two schools.
Central Lafourche, HL Bourgeois.
Yeah. Um, really, really.
Said Terrebonne.
South Terrebonne too?
No, regular Terrebonne. I didn't know if you said regular Terrebonne.
Okay. I missed it, I believe. I did miss it. Yeah, y'all got 7 now?
I think it's 7, including us. Yes, I think so.
Um, really tough district though. HL Bourgeois always competitive. Destrehan always competitive. Coach Clark Thibodeau always even it seems like even in bad years, his kids may not be able to score the ball, but you're gonna know you've been in a fight. Um,
With all of them.
right. Coach Broadway, he's the reigning district champ and the reigning troublemaker. Um,
That he is.
how comfortable are you with your ability to compete in such a tough district?
I mean, I've been in the district now for 7 years. What is there to be
Yeah,
uncomfortable about?
yeah. Can I, can
Yes,
I? Okay,
absolutely.
so coaching in the district and being the head coach, where everything falls back on you, and you got to make this hard decision over here, or you got to make this intermediary decision over here, or kid does something dumb in the classroom during the day that upsets you, and again you got to face East St. John that's going to be bringing it back 6 7 experienced players next season, but this kid may be your best defender. Do I punish him for a half? Do I punish him for a game to set my standard? uh, Hard decisions, or just generally hard decisions, coach. uh, Again, and I think it is a difference from making that decision from the assistant spot and the head coaching spot. I need that one, coach. I need that one. Tough decisions.
I always focus on us. So I don't worry about that. I take it game by game. I really do. It does not matter to me who the opponent is night in or night out. I focus on our guys and prepping them. Um, you know, players change, but programs tend to look the same. And I know in our district, it does not like HL could be 9-20. It does not matter. They're going to come to play
Yes.
every time they play us. They're
Yes.
going to have talent. I know that about East St. John. I know that about Destrehan. I know how our district is designed. But as far as how, I mean, I guess the question you're asking is like, do I feel worried? I focus on us. I
No,
don't.
again, that probably is never the question with you. Again, confidence, check. Basketball knowledge, check. IQ knowledge, check. Skill development knowledge, check. You've checked all the boxes already. It's not a. Did you say scared, coach?
Well, I mean, I was trying to interpret what it was that you meant.
No,
Like,
no, it was
I
just
understand what you're saying about being in the big chair. Of course,
no.
that's what people call it.
It's from a competitive market of playing tough teams, and that's all it was from a competitive standpoint in competing against really tough teams in a really tough district.
So our schedule in the preseason, we open up against Rummel. We play St. Amant. We're in the Newman Invitational. We're in the Country Day Invitational. I have 35 on the schedule. I have McMain on the schedule. I have Jesuit on the schedule. All of these are preparation for the district. So if I'm scared, I guess I need to go to church, correct? I mean, I'm gonna be, no matter what, I'm gonna be under the microscope. So every
Hey,
game I lose, I'm gonna be under the microscope like she does not belong. I know that that's what's coming. I know that. However,
say
I mean, if I'm scared, I gotta go to church, right?
that's the rule and not the exception. That is the rule and not the exception. I
I'm, I know that I'm gonna face scrutiny. I know that in the
not from
minute like
you.
I make a decision, they're gonna say she does not belong. I know that. However, clearly, if God has designed this for me, then I have to trust the process. And
Right.
the process is, listen, last summer I played in Mall Monday's summer extravaganza without our player who is currently signed to Millsaps. I walked in that game, played in that game with 6 players, 2 sophomores against Landry, got my tail kicked, and stood there the entire time. Any other coach probably would have said, I don't have my player that's actually signed. We're not going to play
Right.
this game. I walked in the game and I was the head coach at the time because Youssef was out of town. I walked into that game. I think I lost by maybe about 30 points. Probably everybody standing around watching me. I had to stand there and I had to take it. But all of those moments prep you for, all right, I've been through that. I've sat through games where I've gotten dunked on and I'm screaming, just get the ball out and go score on the other end and the dunk. Nobody's going to pay attention to that.
Right.
I've been in all of those moments where I have coached games and had to sit there and got my tail kicked, but it was okay.
I,
You like you have those. We lost to Scotland by like 49 points. I mean, this happens.
I tell you, I don't get. And everybody that know me know I very rarely curse doing interviews. I don't give a damn what nobody says. You're ready. You're absolutely ready because you understand the core principles and philosophy of what sports is, and that's you win some, you lose some, and you learn the lessons from the losses.
And I'm not saying that I'm not going to be mad when I lose. I don't want anybody to ever think like I'm not going to be mad. I'm going to be heated. I am absolutely going to be heated because that's who I am as an individual and I'm a competitor. And I don't know, I lose sleep like every other coach. Like when we lose, I'm like, oh no, like this, no, we got to figure this out. So I already know that, I know I'm knowing what I'm stepping into. However, there are coaches that know like, yeah, she sat there while like she coached through that 30. I'm telling you, somebody tweeted out a video of I was standing right there getting dunked on. And I retweeted and said, man, my hair looks amazing in that video. I promise you I did, but my hair did look amazing. But I did get dunked on. But I mean, it happens. It happens. So what you gonna do? You're gonna sit there and cry about it, or you're gonna get back in the lab and work harder? You're gonna get back in the lab and work harder.
Hey, I absolutely love it, Coach. I absolutely love it.
My hair did look good in the video, but I was getting dunked on.
Hey, I was again. I was a fan from the tweets, the trash talking tweets. So you really got me locked in now as a fan and a supporter, man. I absolutely love it because again, at the end of the day, in this game called high school athletics, most days you learn more from your kids than you do about from them than you already know about you. Like it takes a lot of persistence and understanding and love and loyalty to be great at this thing. And not only are you going to be not only are you the first 5A head coach, I see a state championship in your near future.
I mean that's
That it's going to happen. I already prophesized. Already prophesized it. It is, and there's nothing you can do about it but accept it.
well, that was so that Yusef to me is YJ. That's what I call him. YJ said, I'll be at the state championship game when you're coaching in it. And I just kind of smiled at him and laughed.
Look. Where two or more
Are gathered in his name.
you know what it is. And so two people stood in the gap for you in agreement that I know, like I know, Coach Youssef is a believer.
He listen, listen. The when somebody speaks that speaks that into existence for you, and I'm telling you, I was like, no, like, yeah, no, no, sir. Like I couldn't even see that, and here I am. But he kept telling
Yeah,
me, and one of the things I don't even think that people like really understood the amount of autonomy that I had. I've been the coach that runs tryouts. I've been the head coach for JV and freshmen. I do transition defense. So, like, I help to scout. There are all these things that I was just like, man, why does he ask me to do so much? Like, I was running our turn, like, we run two tournaments. We have a Hahnville Invitational and a freshman invitational. And, like, I remember times like I'm literally coaching a freshman game and then have to go coach a varsity game in the same day. And I'm like, Youssef, like this. But I understood. I coached 65 games last season. Coached 65 games for this moment. And now I didn't see it. I didn't know that he was going to move, but I
right.
do understand it now.
I don't think nobody expected that. That was that like when I got the call that Coach Youssef was gone. I kind of teared up because I knew we were losing a good one, like a really good one, and he's up here in Georgia somewhere,
I'm done with it.
eating bonbons right now.
Yes.
Man, I'm gonna really miss him. Uh,
Same.
he was a well respected coach, and I did. I was coming to the close of the interview, but I really did forget to ask you one pertinent question that's very instrumental in your success. And so, can I do that real quick?
Yes.
Um, we talked a lot about coaching, development, skill set. Where do you find your Erica Randolph at?
So I grew up in a two-parent household. Um,
Okay.
my dad is a doctor. My mom was a school teacher. She actually like ran the technology area. Like she actually worked under Bill Gates's program at the time. My mom always wanted me to be a girly girl, and she did. She had this idea of me being a part of Jack and Jill and the Lynx and those types, being in high society. And I picked up a basketball and then started playing soccer. And finally, my dad had to have a conversation with her and say, "Listen, Erica's different, and we have to." Yeah, he did. He was like, "I get that you want her to be a girly girl. That's not who she is. She
Right,
doesn't
right,
want to be in high society. She doesn't want to be a debutante. Like that's not who she is." And I mean, I think people see, well, I'm a girly girl now, and I'm not a girly girl per se. I'm into fashion and things like that. But my dad told me a long time ago that he was like, "You're different, and you're gonna pave the way for a lot of people." But when your dad, when you have a father as a female that believes in you and just tells you like, this is what you're gonna do, and loves on you the way that he loves on me. That's why I have the confidence to do what I do, because I know at the end of the day, like, man, my dad loves me and my husband. Like both of them are always, just saying like, my husband told me after I interviewed, he said, "I'm proud of you and I love you and I need you to remember that." And like that to me was more important than what the outcome was going to be. And my dad was the same way. Like when I called my parents and I told my parents were like, "Oh, that's great. I think you just went on vacation though, and you didn't send us the pictures." And I said, did you just hear what I just told you?" And they were like, "Yeah, that doesn't really surprise us, Eric." And I promise you, that my dad said that. He was like, "I'm not really surprised by that. Are you surprised?" And I'm like, "Okay, so yeah, I guess mom and dad." I was like, "It might be a big deal." I was like, "It might be on the news. I don't know." But they were never, my dad's never been surprised by who I am and what I've accomplished. And when you have people that love on you the way that they love on you, like you have the ability to do whatever. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand that even if I made a mistake, like I always knew, like he was like, "No, you just have to figure out how to learn from that mistake." And listen, I wasn't saying that I was the easiest daughter, because when I lost games, when I went home, I would flip stuff over in my room. I did. I used to flip desk. I used to flip my dresser over. I would do all kinds of stuff. And my dad had told my mom, "Just leave her alone. Don't go talk to her, because there's no talking to her right now. She lost. Just leave her alone." So my mom was like,
How
why
many
she acts
whoopings
like
did
that? And I
you
was
get?
like, because I don't like to lose. I was like, why?
How many whoopings did you get? A lot, huh?
No. Um, no. One time when I was like 2 years,
You flipping stuff and didn't get in trouble?
I didn't do anything to get in trouble.
You flipped the dresser.
Yeah, but my dad knew it was because we lost. And I would always feel like it was my fault that we lost. But one time I was like 3 years old and I did something and I was walking up the stairs and my dad like patted me and I held my breath till I passed out. So then
Gangster. Gangster. No more whoopings after that, huh?
I never got one. But I really, I don't tell too many people that story, but yeah, that's what I did. But
Oh, well, thank you. You guys just got a Prep News exclusive of how bad she was as a baby.
but I never really did anything in school because I'm the kind of person I don't like to hear people's mouths and I don't like when people yell at other people. So I didn't do anything to really get in trouble. Um, I just I'm not saying I was a good kid, but I was like, man, I'm not doing that because I'm not trying to hear my parents' mouth.
Yeah, yeah, facts. And I tell kids all the time, if you don't want your coach fussing at you, if you don't want your coach yelling at you, be where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it, and that removes all doubt whether you should get yelled at or not.
Yeah.
And thank you too. I'm serious because I have a daughter who is a freshman in high school. Everybody, I talk about her every chance I get because she's that important to me. But the same love, care, and concern and consideration that you say your dad gave to you that made you the woman you are is what I'm trying to do for my daughter. Like she plays volleyball. She's a 6'2" volleyballer at EA. Yeah, I might get that whooping from her, you know. She like that. But she is so like to say that when she was growing up, she was a preppy little princess uh, that didn't even like to sweat. And now I see this chick on the volleyball court that just, man, you should just see her demeanor if they're losing in a game. Like she's like, shit, I got to get back in there. Like I just want to compete, and so that means a lot. That I'm, if she turns out to be her own version of Erica Randolph, I'm one happy parent.
Let me tell you, it's one of the reasons why like I'm able to be who I am
Right,
and be what my players need me to be is because I was taught how to love, so I know how to love other people.
right,
And that's one of the most important things as a coach. And my guys will tell you like, nah, coach, love me. I was like, you absolutely right. Those are my sons. So when I tell you like I always tell them like, man, if we gotta punch this out, we gotta punch this out, but we're gonna punch this out together as a family. But you can't really be a quality coach unless you love on your players. And sometimes your players are going to resist that because they don't know what love looks like.
right,
And that's the issue with a lot of people. Like you don't know what love looks like, which is why you're so resilient against your coach. You don't want to listen. And some parents, they're like, I don't want to listen. I was like, well, you don't know what it looks like when somebody really loves on your child. And
right,
love on your child means I'm going to do what's in the best interest of your child. You may not understand that this is me protecting your child where your child turns the ball over and I bring him out the game and you're like, oh, she's mad. Not mad. I'm protecting your child at that point because they made a mistake and I don't want them to make another mistake so they
right.
look like a terrible player. That is what love looks like when you love on your players.
That's right. Because it may be a college coach in there watching another kid, but at the same time they get to see your child, and if they see him make back to back to back to back to back turnovers, now there's I don't know if I'm coming back to this school to watch kids or to look at kids or look for kids because that is a unilateral thing. That means that general basic instructions of how to shield and defend the ball isn't being taught. So I understand. And thank you for the extra 9 minutes and 35, 36, 37, 38. Oh, yeah. No, thank you, coach. Thanks.
Got that.
Uh, I'm cheering for you. I'm rooting for you.
Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate it.
I love to see. I'm a person that believes in breaking rules, not from a disrespect or breaking the law type of breaking rules, but in this country we don't we normalized certain things, and a woman coaching boys is one of these things that we've tried to normalize. And so I'm glad, I'm grateful for your opportunity to get to show that you can, and I know you will.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Just like what I told people, I prayed more and I said less, and God did the rest.
Right.
Just to quote Lil Wayne, that's exactly what it is. Yes, he said it.
Gucci.
Everybody else doesn't realize that's the verse, but I was like, that's the verse.
Hey, hey, can I say this on a live interview?
What's that?
I listen to Lil Wayne a lot.
I think that everybody knows that I love rap music and that's my favorite type of music. But I mean, in order for you to understand your students and your players, you have to listen to what it is that they're listening to because one
Not
of the
doing that.
yeah, one of the
Not doing
greatest
that.
what listen to what they
I'm
listen
not doing that. So
to.
I've had four rappers that I've just listened to my entire adult life. The first and the greatest rapper ever, Tupac Amani Shakur. Next is DMX. Next is DJ Quick and Lil Wayne. Everybody else in the old days, I'll listen to, I enjoy, but like listen to, it's been those four guys. This crap that they're calling music today, I'll shoot myself in the head first. I wish I would. I would like before my son became 18, 17, 18, you couldn't even play that crap in my vehicle. I only gave him that leeway because he got older. For real. Like I wouldn't listen to Boosie to save your life.
I don't care for him, but again, the kids like him. I don't care for
I
him.
wouldn't listen to what the other one name is. Kevin. I
Kendrick
couldn't tell I couldn't tell you none of their lyrics to save my life.
Kevin Gates. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
I would. Oh, Lil Durk, Lil Baby, Lil Mama, May May and the Crusaders. None of them. But hey, it's been great, man. I'm happy. I love first time interviews. It gives me an opportunity to get to understand you as a coach, as a person, and also people don't know this, but an interview also tells a lot about how a coach is going to love her kids and her team. And those young men at Hahnville are in great hands.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
No, I just tell the truth. Like I'm really different as a journalist. Like I believe in the truth 100%. And if I gotta lie to you, I'm not gonna deal with you. And that's just what it is. Like I'm not trying. I don't want to mess your brand up. I'm not doing none of that. We talking about the issues at hand. Boom. Let me help you look great. In the process, you help me look great. We've helped each other win. Anything that I can ever do for you, I hope that we get to do this again after June. Also, send me your schedule. I want to, do my
Yes, sir.
do
Yes,
my
sir.
Twitter thing. Uh, and I got one rule. I have one hard rule.
I'm listening.
I don't like sir. Sir for
You don't
people.
like what?
I don't like the word sir. I don't like the word sir.
Sir?
Yeah, I hate the word sir. Please don't call me sir. Like that's for people who want to be important. I have no desire to be important.
You know that's just kind of it's kind of part of my personality. Everything is sir and
I
ma'am. And
know. I'm gonna tell you the story. I'm finna end the broadcast. Hey, and I'm gonna tell you in 1 minute. So Hey, y'all know what it is. Thank you. Remember, get off the bench, get into the game.